welcome to the newly rebranded Trump Card Reviews channel, previously called Thomas Paine. This week I had been reviewing HBO's 2020 series Perry Mason, and it frankly left me with very mixed feelings. I'll put a link to that review above. But while writing the review of that uber depressing mixed bag, I stumbled upon the Perry Mason books that up to that point I didn't even know were a thing. I started to read a PDF of the first book from all the way back in 1933, Perry Mason, The Case of the Velvet Claws, and was kind of shocked by what I found, because I found myself enjoying it far more than I did the series from 2020. It feels for the most part like it could have been written yesterday. The writer, Earl Stanley Gardner, was also a lawyer by profession, and he draws on this a lot in writing his stories of Perry Mason. He also has quite a strange writing style which is very utilitarian. He doesn't do so well on flowery or descriptive language, but instead has a laser focus on fact and logic in a way that reminds me of Sherlock Holmes. While I was making my review of the series, I wanted a picture of Perry Mason and Della Street getting married for it, and clicking on that picture took me to a frankly unbelievable article titled Perry Mason, the Perfect Gay Icon, in the unimaginably verbosely titled SDL-GBTN, the San Diego Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender News, coming in with an article so ludicrously crazy that I'm not sure if it was a parody or not. The article opens up by saying, in the iconic television series, Perry Mason, the titular character, is a gay man. This is not explicitly stated in the show, but there are several clues that suggest this is the case. For example, Perry is never seen with romantic interest, and he's very close to his secretary Della Street. And that is probably because Della Street was his romantic interest. He kisses her at the end of the first book. It goes on. He also has a collection of designer suits and ties, and is always well groomed. These things suggest Perry is more interested in fashion and appearance than most straight men. And I mean, having suits is not so unusual for a lawyer. While some viewers might be surprised to learn that Perry is gay, it's actually a very natural fit for the character. Perry is a brilliant lawyer who is always one step ahead of everyone else. He's also very charming and charismatic, two traits that are often associated with gay men. In many ways, Perry Mason is the perfect gay icon. He's smart, stylish, and always ready to fight for justice. And now he's just gay, apparently, because he's well groomed and wears a suit. The reason there was not so much in the way of heterosexual relations in the TV show was probably more down to the actor playing him, Raymond Burr, being gay. And this is just weird. Why do people in the LGBT community try to claim characters so much that they're willing to ignore any contrary evidence and instead interpret a man in a nice suit as someone who naturally must be homosexual? It's frankly bizarre. What is even gained by Perry Mason or Velma Dinkley becoming gay? I cannot even follow the thinking. How does the plan even go? Make Velma Dinkley gay, something, increase LGBT acceptance. It's like the underpants gnomes from South Park came up with this plan. The book starts off as many great detective stories do. Perry Mason is sat in his office when an attractive woman walks in seeking his help. Mason's secretary Della Street immediately dislikes the woman. She has a preening, dismissive arrogance about her. The woman claimed to be called Eva Griffin, but Della had already looked into her and she could find no record of this woman or her family existing. And this mystery woman comes to Mason with a story. She claims to be a married woman who's caught in a bad situation. She tells him that the previous night there had been a shooting at a social event, and this married woman had been there on the arm of an aspiring politician who was definitely not her husband. The politician had kept them out of it because when the police arrived he happened to know the sergeant in charge, but now a tabloid newspaper called Spicy Bits was sniffing around the story, and she wants Perry to buy them off on her behalf so the story never gets written. And from here on in, I'm going to be getting into spoilers, albeit for a book from 1933. Is that too soon for spoilers? Della Street again tries to warn Perry off of the case, saying that the girl is untrustworthy. Mason is also suspicious of her and has her followed as she leaves by Paul Drake, the private investigator, but he loses her when she goes into a women's bathroom and ducks out of the back. Mason goes to see Locke, the man running Spicy Bits, and it's a blackmailing scam. They get dirt on influential people and then offer to make the story go away if the person buys advertising space in their paper at exorbitant prices. He asks Locke how much it would take to make the story go away, and Locke leaves to make a phone call, which makes Perry suspicious that Locke is not the one calling the shots. Locke comes back and gives Perry the exorbitant sum to pay of $20,000, which sounds bad enough now, but if you take inflation into account, by 2023 prices that's almost $500,000. Mason tells him no, and basically that instead he's going to go after them. After Locke leaves, Mason discreetly tails him to a hotel where he plans a ruse in order to find out who Locke's boss is. He pays off a switchboard operator, then phones Locke, putting on a voice and offering to sell information to Locke about who was at the shooting the previous night, for the price of several $100s, making Locke have to call his boss again for confirmation. Mason can then get that phone number that Locke calls from the paid off switchboard operator. He then takes that number and pays a policeman to go to the phone company on his behalf and get the address attached to that phone number and the name of the real owner, one George Belter. Mason goes to confront the blackmailer in person, George Belter, a high society man who is thought of as being a good person only because he has separated himself from his very profitable scandal rag and blackmailing ring. Mason threatens Belter that if the story about his client ever gets out, Mason will reveal that it is Belter who is running Spicy Bits and it will ruin his reputation, but Belter will have none of it. He's a bully at heart and used to getting his own way, and it turns into a shouting match. Belter threatens to get dirt on Mason and ruin him, before having the butler show Mason out, and on the way out, Mason happens to see Belter's wife, and it's the woman who came to his office at the start of the story. The woman who had been seeing another man was being investigated by her own husband's newspaper. Eva Griffin, now Eva Belter, goes to see Mason later in tears, asking why he didn't just pay the paper off. Her husband is going to go to war now and do everything in his power to destroy Mason. Her husband blackmails a lot of people, including Locke, the man running Spicy Bits, in order to ensure his loyalty. Her husband ruins people. Mason puts Paul Drake on Locke in an attempt to find out what Belter is blackmailing him with, and goes to see the aspiring politician in order to get more money with which to fight Belter. The conflict between Mason and Belter is heating up, and what happens next I did not see coming at all, but maybe I should have. Perry Mason goes home and goes to bed. Outside, a storm is raging, and he gets a phone call in the middle of the night from Eve Griffin. She is distraught and calling from a payphone in a drugstore. She wants Perry to come and pick her up. Perry is suspicious, so he takes a revolver with him and goes to meet her in his car. She gets in and tells Perry what's happened. Her husband, she says, has been murdered. She says she heard her husband arguing with a man before she heard a gunshot, and when she checked on him, she found his body on the floor. Mason asks her if she had heard the voice of the man her husband was arguing with before, and she says yes. He asks if she recognised the voice of the man arguing with her husband, and she says again, yes. You know who it was, she says, because it was you. And that is all you get for now. Maybe if this video gets good views or a lot of subscribers, or I just feel like it, I will carry on the story. If not, you'll just have to read the story for yourself. I will leave a link to the PDF version of the full book below. Until next time.
Those look good. A big salty clam would sure go great with this heat.